Sagittarius. Someone is trying to take your place. The quiet tremor in your heart. Sagittarius, have you felt it lately? That soft, almost imperceptible tremor beneath your ribcage, like a whisper brushing the edges of your intuition? It comes in moments when the house finally quiets down at night, when the weight of caring for children and aging parents settles, when you exhale and allow yourself a second to simply be. In that stillness, something inside you has been tapping gently, asking for your attention. It's the feeling that someone somewhere in your circle has been getting a little too close to your fire. Not in admiration, but in quiet imitation. Not to learn with you, but to learn you. You've sensed it, in the way they study how you navigate chaos with grace, how you make people feel safe without ever asking for anything back, how you shine even when you're tired, stretched thin, and carrying more than anyone realizes. There is a subtle ache that comes with this realization. A discomfort that touches your deepest Sagittarius wound. The fear of losing your freedom, your space, your role, your carefully earned wisdom. And yet, that ache is also a signal, a cosmic nudge, that someone has stepped too far into a territory you never meant to leave unguarded. Your Jupiter heart has always believed in the goodness of people. You have given generously, shared openly, taught patiently. You've let others into your world because you wanted connection, not competition. But lately you've noticed small details. A person who repeats your words, mirrors your decisions, or reaches for the very responsibilities, opportunities, or relationships that once belonged solely to you. This is not paranoia. This is your intuition, matured by life and sharpened by experience, telling you the truth. Someone is trying to take the place you built with years of courage, wisdom, and sacrifice. But before fear rises, let something softer rise with it. The knowing that your place was never meant to be fragile. And tonight, we will walk together into the quiet truth of what's happening, why it's happening, and how this moment is not a threat to your freedom, but a return to it. Chapter 1: The Weight of Being Needed. When generosity becomes a doorway. There is a kind of tiredness, Sagittarius, that doesn't show on the face but settles quietly in the bones. The tiredness of a woman who has spent decades holding everything together. You know this fatigue well. It's the weariness that comes from being the bridge between generations, the emotional anchor for your family, the steady flame that warms everyone else's cold nights. In this season of life, you've become the one people come to for answers, comfort, encouragement, clarity. And because your Jupiter spirit is generous by nature, you've rarely hesitated to give. You've shared your wisdom, your strategies, your stories, your mistakes, your solutions, sometimes even before anyone asked. You've done it out of love, out of instinct, out of that Sagittarian desire to help others rise. But in this beautiful generosity lies a doorway you never meant to leave open. Because while many have appreciated your kindness, one person has been studying it. Not with gratitude but with intention. This is the part you haven't fully admitted to yourself. Somewhere along the way, between managing your responsibilities, caring for others, and carrying emotional loads heavier than you let on, you loosened your boundaries. You told yourself, it's just easier if I explain it, or they need me, or helping them doesn't take anything away from me. And for the most part that was true. Until it wasn't. Because someone in your life has been taking notes. Not just learning from you but learning you. Your way of supporting others. Your way of solving problems. Your way of shining even when you're exhausted. And while you were tending to everyone else's needs, the children needing guidance, the aging parents needing care, the household that never quite stops asking for more, this person slipped deeper into your space, becoming a little too comfortable in the glow of your fire. You didn't see it at first. How could you? Your heart has always been focused outward, always seeking to uplift, always reaching for meaning, never thinking you had to guard what came so naturally to you. But this dynamic, this weight of being endlessly needed, has created an unintentional opening. When you're the one who always gives, people begin to believe they are entitled to your light. And someone, somewhere close, has mistaken your generosity for an invitation to replace you. Not because you're weak, but because you were busy being strong for everyone else. This is not a moment for blame, not of yourself, not of them. This is a moment of recognition. A moment to understand why your intuition has been pulling at the edges of your awareness. A moment to see clearly that your openness, though beautiful, needs protection now. And most importantly, it is the moment where you take your power back. Softly, gracefully, and without apology. What comes next is not fear, Sagittarius. It is clarity. And with clarity comes healing. Let's walk into it together. Chapter 2: The Imitation Game. When someone studies your fire, there is a particular kind of unease that only Sagittarius understands, the discomfort of realizing that someone is watching you not with admiration, but with calculation. It starts subtly. A repeated phrase you once said. A decision made just like yours. A way of presenting themselves that feels strangely familiar. First you brushed it off. You told yourself it was coincidence, synchronicity, maybe even a compliment. After all, you've always been someone others look up to. People naturally gravitate toward your warmth, your wisdom, your lived experience. But lately the mirroring has become too precise, too intentional. Like someone is tracing your silhouette, hoping that if they follow every line, they'll eventually step into your place. In Sagittarius, you felt it. Not as fear, but as a quiet recognition that the energy around you has shifted. This person isn't inspired by your fire. They're trying to understand its logic. They're studying the way you move through conflict with grace. The way you speak softly when others panic. The way people turn to you without you ever needing to demand attention. They're watching the way you navigate family storms, career obstacles, and emotional burdens, all while still managing to show up with that unmistakable Sagittarian light. But here is what they do not understand. Your fire is not a technique. It's a lifetime of becoming. It's the nights you stayed up late comforting a child. It's the mornings you pushed through fatigue because your parents needed you. It's the years of juggling roles no one else could see, decisions no one else could make, and sacrifices no one else ever acknowledged. Your glow is not a formula to be copied. It's a history. Your wisdom is not a strategy. It's a soul maturity earned through storms and rebirths. Your presence is not a performance. It's a vibration that took decades to cultivate. And yet, someone is convinced that if they examine your every move, they can reproduce it. This is the Sagittarius paradox of midlife. You are finally seasoned enough to shine effortlessly, and that very effortlessness attracts people who want what you've built, without carrying what you've carried. Watch how this person behaves when you step into your power. Notice how their eyes follow you when you speak. Notice how their tone shifts to mimic yours. Notice how they position themselves near your relationships, your responsibilities, even your opportunities, as if your path is something they can quietly slip into when you aren't looking. But here is the truth that protects you more than any boundary ever could. No one can replace a Sagittarius who is aligned with her Jupiter. They can imitate your actions, but they cannot imitate your essence. They can copy your choices, but they cannot copy your intuition. They can mirror your words, but they cannot mirror the place those words come from. That deep well of meaning, wisdom, resilience, and spiritual strength that only a lived life can produce. You are not powerful because of what you do. You are powerful because of who you are. And the woman trying to step into your space will eventually discover that she's only repeating movements without understanding the soul behind them. But before that happens, Sagittarius, you need to recognize what this moment is revealing to you. Someone is studying your fire, yes. But the deeper truth is this. It's time for you to remember just how rare your fire truly is. Chapter 3: The Sacred Boundary. Becoming the woman who guards her own horizon. Sagittarius, your heart has always been a wide open sky. Expansive, forgiving, generous without calculation. But when you live most of your life with your horizons unprotected, people begin to believe the sky belongs to them too. And that, my love, is where the quiet wounding happens. Not in the loud betrayals you can prepare for, but in the soft intrusions you never saw coming. You've spent years being the peacekeeper, the optimist, the one who avoids unnecessary conflict because your spirit craves harmony and freedom. Drama has never interested you. You'd rather rise above than wrestle in the mud. You'd rather walk away than prove a point. And at this age, with the weight of caring for children, parents, and dreams of your own, you simply don't have energy for emotional chaos. But understand this. Your avoidance of conflict is not the same as the presence of peace. And your kindness has never been an invitation for others to cross into your sacred space. The woman trying to take your place knew this about you long before you realized her intentions. She noticed your reluctance to confront. She noticed your instinct to give others the benefit of the doubt. She noticed your desire to keep the energy smooth, even at the expense of your own discomfort. So she moved quietly, stepping closer, gathering information, positioning herself in the areas you left undefended because you were simply too tired, too occupied, too compassionate to notice. But Sagittarius, this stage of your life is asking you to evolve, not into someone harsh or closed, but into someone discerning, someone who knows that boundaries are not walls. They are sacred rituals of self-respect. You've been afraid that setting limits will make you seem cold, that saying no will disappoint someone, that asserting yourself will disturb the delicate balance you've held together for years. But here is the deeper truth. Every time you silence your own needs to make others comfortable, you teach them that your needs are negotiable. Every time you let someone step into your space unchecked, you teach them that your space has no guardian. Every time you allow imitation to go unaddressed, you teach others that your identity is open source. And Sagittarius, it is not. Your life, your light, your role, your energy, they are sacred territories. This chapter of your journey is the moment the archer puts her feet firmly on the ground, lifts her chin, and remembers that freedom is not the absence of boundaries, it is the mastery of them. So the universe is asking you now, where have you given too much? Where have you spoken too openly? Where have you allowed someone access to parts of your world they have not earned? Where have you let convenience replace discernment? You don't need to confront this woman. You don't need to expose her. You don't even need to warn her. All you need is one sacred shift. Move your energy back to yourself. Close the doors that were left unlatched. Withdraw your emotional labor from anyone who drains instead of replenishes. Keep your dreams quieter. Keep your plans closer. Let your silence become your shield. And something extraordinary happens when Sagittarius chooses boundaries. Your light does not shrink, it sharpens. Your spirit does not harden, it strengthens. Your identity does not dim, it becomes unmistakable. Because the woman who once operated from endless giving begins to operate from intentional giving. The woman who once allowed access now chooses access. The woman who once tolerated intrusion now honors her own horizon. You are becoming her now, Sagittarius, the woman who guards her sky, not out of fear, but out of reverence for her own worth. Chapter 4, Jupiter Awakens. Reclaiming your space, your power, your future. There comes a moment in every Sagittarius woman's life, usually right around the age you are now, when Jupiter stops expanding outward and begins expanding inward. It is the kind of awakening that does not roar. It hums. It begins as a gentle realization that you have spent decades pouring into everyone around you, and now it is time to pour back into yourself. This moment, Sagittarius, is now. You may think you're merely dealing with someone who's trying to take your place, but the truth is far larger, far holier than that. This situation is the catalyst for your rebirth, the moment the universe uses to pull you back into your natural state of sovereignty. Because here is the truth you've been too humble to claim. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to be easily replaced. You were never meant to be just another presence in the room. Your life has always been a horizon, not a destination, a direction, not a role, a consciousness, not a title. And now Jupiter, your ruling planet, is asking you to return to that truth. This is not about protecting your place. It is about elevating it. The woman trying to imitate you believes she can slip into your space because she only sees the surface of who you are. She sees the confidence, not the years of building it. She sees the trust others have in you, not the loyalty you earn through consistency. She sees the warmth you give, not the storms you survive to stay warm. She sees the wisdom, not the nights you cried alone and healed quietly so you wouldn't burden anyone. She studies your steps because she has no idea how deep your roots go. Sagittarius, you cannot be replaced because you did not rise through imitation. You rose through initiation. And Jupiter is awakening something fierce, luminous, and beautifully mature in you. A power that doesn't shout. A confidence that doesn't need validation. A presence that expands naturally without effort. This is your season of reclaiming. Reclaiming your time by no longer giving freely to those who drain. Reclaiming your space by filtering who has earned a seat at your table. Reclaiming your dreams by moving silently, privately, intentionally. Reclaiming your visibility by stepping back into opportunities you once downplayed. Something profound happens when a Sagittarius woman reaches this phase of life. She stops seeking approval and starts seeking alignment. She stops explaining herself and starts embodying herself. She stops dimming her fire and starts directing it. You will notice shifts in yourself soon. Some subtle, some powerful. A new clarity around who you can trust. A desire to invest in your own growth again. A sudden confidence that rises without explanation. A quiet sense of authority returning to your voice. A new boundary encoded in your energy field that says, "This space is mine." And when the woman who tried to take your place senses this shift, and she will realize the game has changed. She will understand that she was never competing with you. She was competing with a version of you who was exhausted, overstretched, and unprotected. But now you are rising into your next evolution. Your Jupiter is waking up. Your path is expanding again. Your spirit is reclaiming territories you didn't even realize you had abandoned. And in this expansion, something becomes beautifully, undeniably clear. You were never competing for a position. You are the position. You are not trying to maintain relevance. You define relevance. You are not trying to keep your place. Your place exists because of you. And when Sagittarius remembers this, no imitation can survive, no competitor can replace, and no force can remove her from the destiny that was written for her from the very beginning. Conclusion: the healing closure. Your throne was never vacant. Sagittarius, exhale with me for a moment. Let the weight of everything we've uncovered settle softly around you, like dust after a long, honest storm. You've walked through layers of truth tonight. Truth about your openness, your generosity, your intuition, your fire, and the quiet ways someone tried to slip into the space you built with decades of resilience. But now that we stand at the end of this journey together, something sacred becomes clear. Your throne was never at risk. Your place was never in question. Your worth was never negotiable. What you felt, the discomfort, the tension, the intuition nudging you awake, was not a warning of loss. It was a calling back to self. A gentle command from the universe. Return to your power, Sagittarius. It is time. The woman who imitated you was never here to take your position. She was here to reveal to you the places in your life where you had dimmed, softened, or forgotten yourself. She was the mirror that showed you where boundaries were missing, where your energy was leaking, where your brilliance had been running on autopilot instead of intention. And now that you have seen it, the illusion of threat dissolves. What remains is only your awakening. Because the truth is this: no one can step into a space that was built from your soul. No one can claim a destiny shaped by your lived years. No one can replace a Sagittarius who has remembered her own horizon. This moment, this realization, this rising clarity, is your Jupiter rebirth. A reclamation. A realignment. A renewal. You are not simply defending a role. You are stepping back into sovereignty. You are becoming the woman who knows the value of her time, her fire, her intuition, her magic. And as you move forward, something within you begins to shift. Your steps feel more grounded. Your decisions feel more intentional. Your voice feels more certain. Your light feels more protected, not because it is hidden, but because it is now held with reverence. Sagittarius, your journey is far from over. If anything, this is the beginning of a season where you no longer give your brilliance away without discernment, the beginning of a life where you choose who gets close to your fire, the beginning of a new chapter where imitation is irrelevant because your essence cannot be copied. Let this be your closing breath. My space is sacred. My light is sovereign. My future is mine to expand. And as you rise from this moment softer, wiser, clearer, know this with every beat of your wild, generous Jupiter heart. You were never meant to be replaced. You were meant to remember who you are. And now you finally have.